Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of our installment on James Renfrew's Porsche 914 6 GT project. He's come a long way. It's been at least a half a year since we did the last update, so we're going to do a progress report. Between having a life and traveling for work and going on vacations, James has been able to spend some more time. Lately, you've been spending more, actually, because I can hear it.
Getting a little more time lately, but working like a dog whenever there's a free minute.
Totally. Anyway, nice to see you again, James, and let's talk about what you've been up to. I'm just going to turn the camera around.
Sure.
All right. So I see lots of welding's been happening.
Yeah, everybody, since the last video, it didn't look like I had started any of the welding at that point, so now I'm closing in on finishing all of the welding and sheet metal work on the car. I had hoped to have it into epoxy primer by the end of September, but we're not quite there yet here at the beginning. Actually, we're coming up on the middle of October already, aren't we?
Middle of October. I'm looking right behind you. I see the nice steel fender flares.
Yes.
The GT fender flares are in place. That looks really different from last time.
Yes. Yeah. The GT fender flares have been installed on all 4 corners.
Yeah.
I TIG welded these on. I'm not the best TIG welder. This is actually my first experience TIG welding. So they're not quite as artwork as some of the professional sheet metal guys, but it's pretty close now. I've got it as close as I can just by feel, so I'm going to just deal with some of these little imperfections in the bodywork.
Did you buy yourself one just for the job?
Yeah, I bought a Miller Synchro Wave TIG welder just for doing this project. That's the blue one over there.
Oh yeah, this one here.
Yeah, and then the TIG, so I've got a MIG and a TIG. The MIG is really handy. That's the red one. The MIG one is handy for filling gaps and any ugly body work. The TIG leaves a much cleaner weld and less heat, so it's ideal for the exterior sheet metal work because it doesn't put as much heat into the metal. It doesn't cause as much deformity, but the MIG welder tends to do more and takes more cleanup as well on the metal.
I see. Okay.
So yeah, I did most of the fenders were all done in TIG. Most of the other work was all done using the MIG welder.
The MIG welder.
Yeah.
So you've done, now when we looked at this before, one of the things that had happened once it came back from the sandblasting was you found quite a few little holes here and there.
Quite a few,
and we looked around, so you've gone over it quite extensively to fix a lot of it.
Yeah, I've deleted the antenna, the old FM antenna. I deleted that.
There was this famous little thing, you were talking about that being complicated to fix.
Yeah, there's styrofoam behind here, and the dirt collects in the styrofoam in the fender well and rots these areas out. So I built this up with the MIG welder, and then I used a high-speed rotary tool to dig that out and reform it to how it should look again. Got
this fixed up here.
Yeah, there's some holes through here, some holes in here.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I see. What have you added here? You've now fixed stuff that had rotted out here, right?
Yeah. So from the last video.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
From the last video, the floor kind of looked the same, except the back portion of the floor was rotted out.
Right.
So since then, I've cut the floor here.
Right.
A great company called Restoration Design sells a lot of these reproduction pieces, and they sell a rear half floor pan. So I just bought this rear half floor pan and spliced it in with the original floor. I did most of this with TIG as well, so that the floor would look better. I haven't totally finished cleaning up the welding work on the car yet, but as well as the firewall panel I talked about in the last video. So I've replaced all the lower firewall. It had rotted out all along the bottom lip here, so that's all been done.
I'll cut away and show you guys the previous video where we just had these pieces and we were looking at them before he installed them. Great.
Yeah, replaced some of the seat brace on the driver's side. It was rotten, so I got a new piece for that. The seat hinges were removed from the original floor and re-welded to the new floor.
Seat hinges,
yeah.
So yeah, you filled a lot of these pinholes and small
Yeah, some pinholes in places where it was weak when I added some more metal into it, so it'll be stronger in the long run and not give me any rust hole problems.
What else we got? Like, okay, let's have a look over here.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting what you're doing in the trunk right now.
Yeah, so this car, I want to have air conditioning. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the whole air conditioning install on phase 1, but I want to have all the pieces in place. So what I built into the front trunk is a location for an air conditioning condenser to fit in here. It'll pull air in from the bottom side of the car.
Right.
It's got a forced air fan that will install on top of it. And then that air, you can see this boxing in here, it's all going to be airtight in here. So it'll pull the air in through the condenser, and then it's going to push it out through this hole in the back, which I built for a big oil cooler, which I was just fitting this today. It's not quite 100% yet, but pretty close.
Wow, excellent.
So that oil cooler, on most 914 GTs, they install it right at the very front of the trunk, and they cut a fairly large hole out of the bumper and the lower valence. But the hole looks neat, I think, but it looked a little too, I don't really like cutting a big hole in the front of the car. So for this build, I'm thinking to it'll all be a perfectly smooth front end.
Right. So it looked like more like a street car.
It'll look more like a 4-cylinder 914 from the front.
Right. Okay.
Except for the flares and more aggressive stance, but
that's very tidy. And there's going to be a false floor here, so you'll still have your trunk space, preserved trunk. And then this is going to be a cover plate for the fuel pump, right? Because you're relocating the fuel pump elsewhere.
So that hole there is for the 75 and 76 914s to access the fuel pump. On this car, it's actually going to be a bulkhead area where I'm going to pass all of the oil, refrigerant, and fuel lines through there to get to the rear of the car.
Right. Let's have a look at the wiring harness and the electronics here quickly while we're at it.
Yeah, so because this is a Carrera 4 911, essentially powered, I'm going to reuse all of the factory Carrera 4 engine relay box. Fuel injection computer is all going to be factory 993, so it's easy to service at any Porsche center if I'm driving and have a problem.
You got a bit of the wiring harness here too, right?
Yeah. So this is the DME harness that attaches to the computer, routes through the cabin of the 911, through the firewall, and then into the engine bay. I'm going to be using most of this wiring harness as is, how is, except that I'll be probably shortening it because of the distances on the mid-engine versus the rear engine. But yeah, I'm hoping to reuse this and basically make it look all like the 993.
Now this is the housing here on the 911. The 911 rear is sloped down to the rear tail lights, right? So this is shaped to fit in there.
Yeah, it's shaped to fit in the driver's side of the, or left-hand side of the 911 rear engine bay. But for the 914, the 914 4-cylinder cars have, I think even the factory 6s have a battery tray here. I'll be relocating the battery to the front of the car for weight distribution, but that leaves this area mostly free.
Right.
So I'm going to invert the box and install it here. Beautiful. And it allows me to get the factory wiring harness, which is caught in here right now. Instead of coming in the bottom, it'll come in the top side of it once it's inverted.
Well, it'll be the new bottom.
The new bottom, yeah.
The old top.
And then I'll 3D print a plug to cover up the old holes, and then the wiring harness will route forward towards the cabin from there.
Yeah, great. Oh yeah, you got a 911 Space Saver tire. Well, of course, that's right.
That'll fit in the front trunk still, and still allow me a space for a battery and also some luggage as well.
Yeah.
So still get most of the use out of my front trunk. So
let's head to the back here and have a look before we reveal the most exciting thing about this part. Now you've got this trunk floor.
Yeah, so I've replaced the trunk floor in the car now. If you folks remember from the last video, someone in the past, the previous owner, had purchased a new trunk floor and dropped it on top of the old trunk floor, and there was rust between the panels, and it was just ugly and messy. So it's all been cut out and replaced in a brand new rear trunk panel here, and welded it right in through there.
It's looking good, looking good.
And yeah, then the this car, since it's going to be a GT, GT cars from the factory had a Porsche logo on the back where the push button for the rear trunk normally resides, and the factory put rubber like racing straps on the top of the trunk to hold it down in the back, which I didn't particularly want to do on this car. So instead I've installed a tube like Porsche used to open the trunk, the other lids, the front trunk and engine bay, and I'm going to put a cord through there to pull the rear trunk. So
very slick.
So it'll make that all nice and look kind of stock.
Well, you know what? Before we go to the most exciting thing, let's look at the underside of the car a little bit so we can appreciate what you've been doing.
Sure.
Maybe I'll go around the other side and then we can flip it up.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a big hole in the floor, isn't there? So yeah, there's the trunk has all been, or the rear floor has all been replaced.
Oh yeah.
And but I still have this hole here. This hole exposes the tube in the center of the car. So a lot of the fuel lines, control lines, I think we talked about some of these on the last video. They've now been repaired. Shift linkage, throttle cables all run through this tube that runs right up through the center of the vehicle, through the cabin. Because I'm going to have a lot of plumbing running through here, more than the factory 914, to make my life easier, I built a little inspection panel that will bolt on the underside of the car. So if I ever need to access that, do service and maintenance, it's going to be a lot easier for me to get in there.
Very smart.
This was all rebuilt as well. I have noticed in the last video this was all cut out. There's a big rust hole here. The factory battery sits above here in the engine bay, and the acid leaks down and gets into these channels and rots it all out. So this has all been replaced, and I've added reinforcement panels to the suspension and unibody panels to reduce flex for the 6-cylinder.
Tell me about this here, this piece here.
These are part of the reinforcements. There's plates that go through here around the mount for the trailing arm, along the side of the frame here to support where the shock towers are here. So one of the downfalls of 914s, especially with sticky tires, is these consoles where the trailing arms attached to tend to flex on the unibody frame. So by reinforcing all of these, it greatly reduces the flex, especially if you're running slicks or something like that. They're prone to even cracking around here.
Okay. Well, and now, since we're here, here's the big reveal. There's a motor in here.
Yeah, just last week I finally got the motor fitted for the first time. As the title on the videos have gone, this is a 1995 Carrera 4 3.6 liter twin plug engine. I'm going to leave it all fuel injected, all factory for the 911. I have it mated just to the 914 901 transmission just for fitment, but I really needed to make sure that the engine mount was sitting in the right place and the firewall replacement all ended up in the right place. So this is my first test fit of the motor. And
you said you're about an inch below where you want it to be.
Yeah, I think the mount here, I'm not sure if it was the instructions or my interpretation of them, but I believe the motor is sitting about an inch and a half low from where it should be. You can see the the sheet metal tin here to separate cold air on the top of the motor from hot air on the bottom is sitting below the engine trays here.
Yeah, I see that.
So if I raise the motor mount, those will come back into play.
Right on. Well done. Well, it's good to see it in place and all these chassis reinforcements done. Wow.
Yep. Yeah, I've also added these brackets here. These brackets are for a rear sway bar. This car originally didn't have them, but some 914s did, so you can purchase those brackets. And we'll be adding a rear sway bar to this car.
Very nice.
Also, since the last video, I've converted the car now for, instead of rubber bumpers like 75 and 76 cars had, it now has holes here for the early steel bumpers, because I'm going to backdate the car to steel bumpers.
Oh, I see.
So the rotisserie is now remounted to where the bumpers are attached to.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna come around the front and let's do an outro. Well, thank you once again, James, for showing us around the progress so far. James has done a lot of work here, as you can see. There's sheet metal, wow, we got new parts galore all over the place. Now we've had the motor fitted. Man, that's good progress, and we'll see what happens in the next few months. But well done so far, James. This project is looking really strong.
Yeah, hopefully the next time you guys tune in, we'll have the high build primer and epoxy primer on the body to seal it all up.
Yeah,
and
Right. Well, we'll take another look once you've done that, so you can see how the whole finishing is coming along. That's a great idea. Okay, until then, we'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed episode 3.
Thanks, everyone.